We are back here now on the show to talk some more contract disputes, contract negotiations. Can we finally get a breakthrough in one of these? Hopefully, with this Haason Reddick, I could provide at least a little bit of a clearer picture of what should happen with Haason Reddick, because if you weren't aware, the New York Jets and the Philadelphia Eagles agreed to a trade to send Haason Reddick to New York for a conditional 2026 third round pick. This happened back in March, towards the end of March, March 29th, between that and April 1st. It happened between one of those days because I know that on Haason Reddick's contract deal, on his deal that he had currently with the Philadelphia Eagles, there was a bonus that they were supposed to give him if he was still on the team by a certain date. So they decided to trade him. If they felt they weren't going to extend him, it was probably better off in their interest to trade him, and that's exactly what they did. Since Haason Reddick has been part of the New York Jets officially, he has not stepped foot on the field as a Jets player over the contract talks that there have been going on, actually. 2024 is set to be the final year of Haason Reddick's current contract that he's on, and the issues that he faced with the Philadelphia Eagles over negotiating a new deal ended up with him being traded, like I mentioned, and sources indicated at first that Haason Reddick was looking for more guaranteed money at 30 years old, something that the Jets probably up until this point have been hesitant about giving him. Not so much about production, but also because the Jets are in a very small window right now where if they give out guaranteed money to a player at 30 years old, not coming off of his best year, personally and as a team with the Philadelphia Eagles, how much is that really going to benefit him in the long term? They're really looking at a 2-year, 3-year window max where they want to get the best out of all the players that they have right now, and guaranteeing money to Haason Reddick for however long it is might not seem like the best idea. So I probably wouldn't go ahead and do it, just from my point of view and how this has all been broken down. But more sources around the situation, according to ESPN's Rich Kamania, Reddick had told the New York Jets initially that the contract negotiations wouldn't be a problem before the season, and he made it seem like everything was going to be figured out. There would be no potential of him holding out or anything like that, but that obviously turned out to be completely false, because right now that's exactly what has been happening. He hasn't been there for the voluntary portion, maybe as expected, but at mandatory minicamp he wasn't there. And not only that, not being at mandatory minicamp is one thing that rubs some fans the wrong way, but during that week, he was seen in Japan during the week of mandatory minicamp, and that, you could imagine, didn't rub too many New York Jets fans the right way. And it's not looking great right now for Haason Reddick. And also, just to add on to that, the Athletic's Zach Rosenblatt also believes that it's unlikely that the New York Jets sign Haason Reddick to an extension even before the start of the season. So that would be probably the worst case scenario up until this point. Now we're talking about the regular season, and not getting an extension done by then is a problem because, like I mentioned, the Jets have this small window right now because you don't know how many solid years Aaron Rodgers has. I would probably guess this one and another one where he's really, really good. But then after that, you start questioning some things, potentially. I'm just projecting on what I believe could happen. But they have a small window here, and Haason Reddick making it so difficult right now to just get it started, finally start talking about football and getting on the field and just working on making the most of this small window. It's starting to rub me the wrong way. If I was a Jets fan and I was seeing this and how just annoying it seems like it is right now, I wouldn't be happy about it. And some, fans around this situation, some fans and analysts even have thrown out the idea of just trading Haason Reddick or cutting him because he'll be a free agent next year and he is on a contract year. It really doesn't benefit him. It isn't in his best interest to not be part of a team this year. If he is trying to get guaranteed money, you want to be on the field proving that you deserve it. Even if you don't get it at the start of this season, you want to be on the field so that next year, if you do end up being a free agent, you have a good leverage point to build off of that and get as much money as possible. But, that's where it stands right now with Haason Reddick. So what do we do? What do the Jets do about Haason Reddick? He hasn't contributed at all to them. It's not like he cost them a lot, a 2026 conditional third round pick, but in my opinion, how I see the next weeks, maybe month heading into August, I think you keep trying until training camp. You keep trying, keep insisting with Haason Reddick to find some sort of middle ground for yourself and also for Reddick, so both of you can be content with a deal to be ironed out. And I would even extend it a little bit into August if you can. If you feel that you're close, if you feel that you're sort of making small strides to finally get something done, you could push it until August. I'll be okay with that. But if you can't push this until the preseason, until you start actually playing against other teams, and you still don't have one of your best pass rushers on just talent alone out there on the field. If he's not out there, not participating in practice, there's no real point, I want to say, in still insisting or still holding out hope that he will sign after that and still be a major contributor, because at that point, you've missed so much of the offseason, so much of the bonding, chemistry building, really learning this system. Of course, you could learn it off the field, but it's different when you're out there playing with the guys lined up around you. And I wouldn't push it. You can't let it go beyond preseason is what I was trying to say overall. Without Reddick being there on the field, you can't let it get to that point. And Eric says, after the Aaron Rodgers injury in Week 1, the highly anticipated New York Jets, who a lot of people thought were going to the Super Bowl, was a train wreck. How hot is the seat for the Jets offensive line? That's a good question also, too, because it just goes along with what I was mentioning here with Haason Reddick. That's another point, probably one of my biggest, annoyances of the New York Jets is that the reports up until now have been that the offensive line haven't been practicing together at all. There hasn't been a practice yet where all 5 projected starters, Morgan Moses, Elijah Vera Tucker, Tyron Smith, John Simpson, and I'm missing one more. I don't know who their center is. But regardless of that, there hasn't been a practice where all 5 of them have been out there on the field. And it goes along with what I'm saying with Haason Reddick. But the difference is obviously with them, they're under contract. They're going to be there. They're not going to hold out. That's the real issue here. With Haason Reddick not even being part of feeling like he's part of the team, it's in a bad spot with the Jets, with Haason Reddick also because you moved on from Bryce Huff, who had a pretty decent season for them last year. Not too many people know about him, but he had 10 sacks for them. And he did all right for them on that defense. But now moving on from him, he goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, ironically, and they get Haason Reddick, who you would say pretty confidently is better than Bryce Huff, but he's not even being part of the team right now, where it's starting to really push some buttons, at least to me, and I'm not even a Jets fan, but seeing how this is all dragging out, it's not looking good, and you don't want this to become an ugly situation where it does drag out, people start getting annoyed, and with that comes some ill-advised comments from Haason Reddick on social media. You know how the deal goes. People say things on there, some cryptic messages, then the Jets respond in a certain way, and it just gets very ugly, and people start talking about that mostly instead of how you protect Aaron Rodgers, like you mentioned, Eric, or how you get the offensive line out there fully healthy, how you integrate Mike Williams also coming back off of an injury. What do you do about Nathaniel Hackett? Is he going to be the main play caller? Is he going to do half of it? Is Aaron Rodgers going to take a bigger role in that? All these other things that you have to worry about that have to do with football. You don't want to keep mentioning and keep bringing up a contract negotiation over a player that has kept himself distant pretty much from this team. And just in full, wrapping this segment up, I'm probably keeping a short leash. I'm keeping a short leash on this entire situation because I'm not even a Jets fan, and I've almost had enough of some of these things that have surrounded the Jets, quite honestly. At the end of the day, I'd probably consider cutting him if it really comes down to it, if you really can't find a trade partner. And I can only imagine what the value would be in trading Haason Reddick, because if you got him for a third-round pick, and now people are seeing how this situation is being played out, and not really feeling the urge to try and trade for him because they know that you're probably not going to come to a contract negotiation or come to a contract extension, the value for him will be even less, I would assume, than any third round pick. So then at that point, the Jets are really stuck without a choice on having to release him. And you don't want to do that. It's probably a bad situation either way, but it looks then that you traded for this player and you got nothing out of him. But sometimes you just got to pull the trigger on things to get the best and just move on finally from all these little things just stopping you from fully focusing on football. But that's just me. I just might be talking a little emotionally because, like I mentioned, I am coming to a point where, with the Jets especially, talking about all these other things, I can't imagine if I was actually a Jets fan and how this would actually bother me. But a lot of things are right now circling around the Jets. Training camp probably can't come soon enough for them, but we're going to monitor it. Hopefully it doesn't come to that point, but we shall see. But that'll do it for that segment. We're going to continue on with the rest of the show, talking about two new segments, some more off-season grades, this time in the AFC West, and also talking about the receivers for the Minnesota Vikings. Is there a possibility there's multiple 1,000-yard receivers, up to 2, maybe even 3,000-yard receivers for the Minnesota Vikings? I'll tell you why I believe there could be after this break. You're listening to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.